and you will be the lead states, and then we'll choose where to file. But we've had some recent cases we're filing more and more here in Oregon.
Gotcha. So they're going to start up with me, and then I'll get right into the questions, though. And
you want me to just talk to you the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
By talking to me, you'll be talking to me. That's wild. I mean, it's been, 10 months now for you?
Yeah.
Probably feels like 6 years.
The tariff case, like I was saying, it was a personal journey.
Yeah.
Right? Internally within the DOJ, I mean, there's a professional legal theoretical journey, and then there's kind of this foundational democratic principles like journey. It was a very interesting paths that all hold distinct meaning. Right. So pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, man. To think though, how you are a household name for a lot of people now.
Which is, it doesn't make sense to me. So it doesn't make sense to me at all.
It's crazy.
I'm still me.
Well, and how different it would have been if Kamala Harris won.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? If you think about your last 10 months would have looked completely different.
We've been trying to we still trying to get people to cover our organized crime work and our consumer work. So.
Okay, we're about to start.
Okay.
Yeah, Kendall, this town hall is about to start in about an hour in his hometown. Dan Rayfield, obviously very familiar with Corvallis, familiar with the people out here, but your experience representing Corvallis, a different time compared to what you've been through the last 10 months representing the state and the Department of Justice for Oregon. What do you expect from this town hall tonight? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, and what we're really doing is trying to kick off this town hall series, talking about what Oregon priorities are. So we expect to hear folks talk about how we want to keep communities safe, what we're doing for working families, seniors, consumers, and what we can do more at the Oregon Department of Justice, hearing from people about their priorities. And of course, right now, I mean, if you're talking about anything in the Oregon Department of Justice, there's certainly going to be a layer of how are we holding the line against the Trump administration as they continue to push the bounds of the law and Constitution.
And you talk about that. I think I counted 44 lawsuits that you are at least a part of, in some cases the lead plaintiff against the Trump administration that have been filed since January. How do you evaluate those at this point? Some of those are still open, some of those are closed. How do you evaluate your success rate or how you're doing on those lawsuits?
Yeah, and first and foremost, if you had talked to me a year ago and said, hey, Dan, by the time you're 10 months into your tenure, you will have filed 44, 45 lawsuits, I would have said that you've lost your mind. And so you talk about how do you consider what is success? And what I would tell folks right now is that in a lot of these cases, we've had the federal government wave the white flag. So when they've stopped funding, we file a lawsuit, the funding will start to get turned back on. And a significant majority in every single one of those cases where we've sought immediate relief, we've been successful. In fact, just where Oregon's leading the tariff case, we were in the Supreme Court last week, and you saw all of the Supreme Court justices really questioning the rationale behind the Trump administration to pass those hidden taxes.
What's the process for your team with this? Because this is sort of unprecedented territory, filing this many lawsuits against the White House and the presidential administration. So when an issue comes up, I know like the birthright citizenship was something that you joined early on, but then the tariff case that you just referenced was maybe a little bit later on, and some as recently as this last month. So what is the process that your office takes in preparing for this? And even sometimes it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're prepared even before maybe the executive order is signed or the legislation is even discussed.
Absolutely. The first thing that we do in evaluating any case, and as these things go on, is are Oregonians being harmed? If they are being harmed, right, then we move to the second layer of the analysis. Did the administration follow the law? Did they follow the Constitution? If they didn't do either of those and the state of Oregon has standing, we're going to move, and we're going to move quickly. And one of the things we did very early on was to create a federal oversight and accountability team within the Department of Justice so that we could be in the courts as quickly as possible. So in the National Guard case here in Oregon, before the National Guard actually were deployed in the city of Portland, I wanted to be in front of a judge, and we had that case filed within 12 hours of receiving orders from the president.
You mentioned that you're obviously dealing with all this federal litigation, but also still dealing with the things that the Department of Justice does more on a state level. I'm wondering, how much is this causing your department to think in a different way than this department's been set up in the past, because you are so active? I mean, you were specifically yourself at the Supreme Court last week. You were in Washington. Do you know the cost of this legislation or of this litigation that's been processed, and how this whole situation has played out differently than maybe past attorney generals have had to deal with in Oregon?
Unquestionably, and here's the thing, like, we got a lot of energy at the Department of Justice, and we have some of the most amazing public servants in all of the state agencies. We got people who have been working 80 hours a week, staff and attorneys, to really focus on our National Guard case and so many other cases. So it's exciting to be a part of that team. But that takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy, and that's what we bring to the table. Right now, if you think about the impact to Oregonians, 45 lawsuits, we're protecting more than $4.4 billion of funding coming into the state, with a handful of lawyers that are and staff that are working incredibly hard. So it's an amazing team to be a part of, incredibly proud of the work that we're doing, and we love to talk about the successes and how much money we're saving Oregonians.
Yeah, you mentioned, again, being in Washington last week at the Supreme Court, that tariff lawsuit, which Oregon is a lead plaintiff on. Where does that stand? You mentioned you felt like there was sort of some sympathy from the Supreme Court justices. Where does that case stand, and where do you see it going moving forward?
And anybody that I would tell you as a lawyer, or even just like a member of the community, it's one of the most humbling experiences to be in the Supreme Court talking about some of the most significant separation of powers issues, things that were discussed during the founding of our country. Incredibly impressive. We saw justices from all walks of life. So you had Justice Gorsuch, incredibly pointed questions towards the Solicitor General for President Donald Trump. I think one of the most important moments for Americans to listen to in that was actually the words of President Donald Trump's own lawyer, where he looked those justices in the eye and said, hey, 30 to 80% of the president's tariffs are being paid by us as Americans. And then he followed up by saying, no, these aren't attacks. And I don't think the justices were buying it. The questions were incredibly pointed. It'll be very interesting to see how they craft their opinion moving forward.
Look, you've definitely been a thorn in the side of the Trump administration and really worked to try to limit what you would say is probably executive overreach in certain cases of the Trump administration. While you're filing litigation, Americans are taking to the streets, rallying at No Kings rallies. This idea of executive overreach, and some Americans would say they see Trump as wanting to be king. Do you see President Trump as a king, and what role do the courts play in America in 2025?
I believe that our judicial system is set up to prevent us from having a king. And it is my responsibility, our entire responsibility at the Oregon Department of Justice, to make sure that when that gets stressed, when that principle gets stressed, we are Americans and we don't have kings, that we're there to meet them in court, to have that conversation with the American people. That's why this is so important. I think all of us have an important role in community, right? We have an important role at the Department of Justice. Community members have incredible important roles in public to peacefully talk about what we want our country to look like, when we can't always be talking about what we're against. And I think that's what is so important about this moment in time, is that we are having these conversations, such important conversations on the pillars and foundations of our democracy. And so I'm proud and privileged to be a part of that conversation.
Well, we're grateful for you joining us tonight. Attorney General Dan Rayfield, about to have a town hall here at Lynn Benton Community College. You still got time to make it if you can make it to Corvallis. So I'm sure he'd love to hear your questions. Appreciate it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's send it back to you, Kendall. Thank you.
I was going to weasel in your son cross country. I couldn't get it. There wasn't a good entry.
No, it's all right. Hey. He'll hear from you one day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He has big dreams about all these stuff about money.
So if he does it next year, well, no, Adam will be a freshman in high school. I wonder if we were at some of the same cross country events.
It's totally because so your son did it this